Hello, trampoline friends. Welcome to Trampoline Insight. Today is episode 26, and we're going to continue a little bit more about trampoline construction. I know you guys are tired about this, but bear with us. This should be the last part.
That's right. I hope this one is the last one. So today we're going to be starting where we left off. We're going to be starting just around like the 13-0 or 13-1 difficulty mark, starting with triples. So this could get exciting. And honestly, at this point, I think we can offer a lot of advice, but this is where it kind of gets up to your style, right? You get to kind of shine and show your strengths, right? I think there's a lot less options with less doubles. Once you get into the triples, it can get pretty exciting. So
You can build that routine almost 100 different ways.
all right, so let's kick it off, starting by checking out your document, Nuno, with your first routine with Triff. All right, so why don't you tell us, Nuno, what's going on here, especially once we get to the bottom. There's a lot going on there. So walk us through this first routine with Triffus that you do.
So the first routine that I do, I put the thrift tuck right, and I remove the half pike that we had on the previous optional, and I go back to a back straight because I feel like the first time they do a thrift, that connection is extremely hard. And we did the same thing with the full brandy, so we're basically following the same logic that we did before. Simple as that. So the routine would go thrift tuck back straight, full brandy pike double tuck, Rudy out pike double pike, half out tuck, half tuck, half out tuck, and then there are several options for the ending. It really depends where your athlete is at that time. I have half pike, full pike, or full straight. So of course you can even do full tuck there if you want. If he's not strong enough to do any of these, I guess half pike he probably would be more than strong enough after doing the half pike on second skill. But the full they're still a little bit new, but that's just the option. You can, like Steven said, and like we said in the beginning, you can play around with these routines now a lot more. There's a lot more skills that can go into the routine that might be even better than the skills that I have here. When I build these routines, I built it for the audience that I have, for the athletes that I have right now. So this would be what they would perform. That doesn't mean that you cannot do it differently.
Right. And I think, I mean, the only downside I think to putting that half pike second is the next upcoming routines. That half pike is going to move up. So it doesn't, I mean, it wouldn't make much sense to put it last skill if 3 weeks later you're going to put it in the middle and then you're going to have to replace that last skill anyway, right?
Yeah, it does.
So, but if,
Like we said before, the only advantage I see in that is them keep doing different connections. Because when I was an athlete, I
right.
found myself doing the same connection all the time, and then when I had to put half Rudy and half in different places, I had some trouble. So that's the only benefit I see from that.
So let me ask you a question here. So we take a look at the front skeleton, Triff tuck, full brandy, Rudy out pike, and then it's half out pike and half out tuck.
So
No
that
Rudy
would be
out
just
tuck
the first one.
first.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that would be
Okay.
just the first one because that I feel like that drift is so hard that then
Yep.
after we give that step, they get very tired. But
Hmm.
that half out tuck is going to disappear there really soon because you can either use a full brainy tuck or a Rudy out tuck to replace it. And of course,
Right.
if you do replace it, then I would put it after the Rudy out pike, and the half out pike would go down to 9 skill.
Gotcha. All right. So let's take a look at the next routine that you have with Triff, and it looking pretty similar, just
Yeah.
half pike second, right? Is there any other changes here that I'm missing
Well, I
from the
didn't put the
last?
Rudy out there yet.
Right.
Again, you can put the Rudy out tuck there or the full brandy. It really depends on the state of your athlete. I would say, really, it's just I don't know.
Mhm.
When I was writing these routines, I was like, maybe they're not ready yet at this point. Maybe so I left it out, but you can easily put it there. But
But
apart
that
from
that
that,
Rudy
we
out
can we
tuck that
can
that Rudy out tuck is tough. I mean the Rudy outs alone are tough, right? Especially once you have it seventh
especially
skill
when
and they're low. That's a lot of twisting
that's
to
what I
put
was gonna
in
say.
to put
Especially
in
when
at
they
the
get to
end.
the end of the routine and they're tired and they're low, it's not that easy to do. So
All right.
Well,
So
why
why don't
don't
you
we
read
read
off
this
this
routine? Yeah.
routine for the ones that are listening, not watching the YouTube video?
Yeah, so it would be a drift tuck, half pike, full Brady pike, double tuck, Rudy out pike, double pike, half out pike, half tuck, half out tuck, and then either full pike or full straight, because the
Yep.
half pike already moved up to the second skill, so now we cannot use it at the end, and which we just
And
talked before.
honestly, I've had a couple girls that are like first year seniors, maybe some talented juniors who are doing triff. They're as a 16-year-old that do this routine or something similar, but they have their full, but it's still they're not strong enough to put it last skill. So
Yep,
they'll still perform the same routine just with double layout at the end.
double A at the end.
All right. So before we get to your next routine, which includes the triff pike, let's stop and take a peek at what triff tuck routines I have composed. All right, so here's the first routine that I put in for athletes that are first learning their triff. And like you took out the Rudy out tuck, right, to change the front skeleton a little bit. I took out the full Branny pike. So it's the same principle, making a little bit that front skeleton a little bit easier. I took out the full Branny pike, honestly, because I think the full Branny pike requires a little bit more height than the Rudy out tuck. But like we talked about, the Rudy out tuck, if you're low, it's a lot of twisting at the end, and it's very easy to mess up. So I can see both sides. So this is one of the first routines. You'll see that the difficulty drops down drastically. So it goes triffus tuck, back straight, Rudy out pike, double back tuck, Rudy out tuck, back pike, half out pike, half and half out tuck, double layout, or full, depending on where they are in their career or with skills. And I think the biggest difference here is you have the double pike for that first triff routine. I think I made it even easier with two back skills. And I think that first triple routine is super challenging for the athletes, because all they can think about is that triple. All they can think about, they're putting all of their physical and emotional energy into making sure they do that triff good. They don't over rotate, under rotate. They can hit the connection, and then once they get through the back layout, they're like, oh wait, I still have 8 more skills left, right? And it's a whole totally different mindset. So that's why I put this back pike in here, 6th skill. But honestly, if they're strong enough, by then they can do the double back pike. Then the next routine, I put the full Branny pike in, and I put in the double back pike, but not yet the full Branny pike. And honestly, I think I'll keep saying this until we stop recording these podcasts on routine composition. I just had a boy put triff into his routine, and he's already has the full Branny routine, or full Branny in his routine, but he doesn't have the back skills in yet. So I mess around. It depends on the athlete.
Yes.
So this next routine where we only have one single somersaulting element, and that's second skill. Triffus tuck, back layout, Rudy out pike, double back tuck, full Branny pike, half and half out tuck, Rudy out tuck, double back pike, half out, full or double A. And one of the weird things, not weird, I think you can see, which a lot of different gyms, you'll see some put the Rudy out pike first, some put the full Branny pike first. And one of the reasons why I put the Rudy out pike is I feel like you can alter the full Branny pike. You can see the ending a little bit more at the end to better prepare for that Rudy out. And also, Rudy out pike, half and half out tuck. Rudy out tuck is a whole lot of twisting in a row. Doesn't give them much time to breathe and spot. So putting that full Branny here kind of lets them see the ending a little bit more to get ready for the Arabian.
So I was gonna ask you something about this routine. So on all the other ones, you have the half at the bottom. It's interesting, okay? Because I had the half in the beginning, and then when I created these routines, I put the half at the bottom, okay? And you did exactly the opposite. You had the half at the bottom, and when we get to this point, you bring the half up. So why did you bring the half up? And again, I don't think any of it is wrong. Okay, it really depends on the athlete. It depends on the circumstances. Like at this point, there is no wrong routines. It really depends what the athletes can do.
Yeah, No, so and you're right, and that half might even go back to eighth skill eventually, but it's just because this is the newest routine with that Rudy out tuck seventh skill. So like we said, that Rudy out tuck seventh skill is tough. They're probably not so high. They're probably twisting a little bit later than they normally would. So I feel like they can lift on the double back pike for the last two better than they would do for the half. But we could do something where we put full brainy pike third, and then Rudy out pike, double back pike, Rudy out tuck, and then half tuck,
Mm-hmm.
half out full. And so in between the Rudy outs, you would have a break with a double back pike, so it wouldn't be so much twisting. So maybe you would be high enough to put the half after the Rudy out tuck. Um, so it's one and the same. It depends on the athlete's, I guess, strength and how high they're jumping at the end and how fast they twist on the Rudy outs.
And I also think what we just discussed a little bit about the Rudyard or the full brainy pike, I
Mm-hmm.
think it really depends on the athlete. Okay, I did both for the same athlete, and then there was one that was simply better than the other. It was easier for them to do Rudyard pike on third skill and full brainy later. There are other athletes that is not so easy for them to do Rudyard pike on third skills and full brainy later. Everyone is different, so that's where you start adapting these routines for those particular athletes.
All right, so this is my last Triff Talk routine before we get to the Triff Pikes. And essentially, it's a very similar routine. The only difference is I'm throwing in half pike second skill. I would say, honestly, probably 8 out of 10 times they'll do half pike. But if their triffs aren't stable or if confident, sometimes we'll put the double back second, because it's a lot easier to manage if they under rotate or over rotate the triff. So this routine goes triffus tuck, half and half out pike, Rudy out pike, double back tuck, full branny pike, half and half out tuck, half out pike, double back pike, half out tuck, full. And you can see I took the Rudy out tuck out, right? Because at that point, now they have a triple and 10 doubles. Those 2 extra 10s are not worth it anymore, right? The
Yep.
Rudy out tuck is challenging, and it's
It's so
just
hard to
not
do that.
worth it. But when you have a back layout second skill, you need to make up for some difficulty somewhere, and those 2 tenths, you need those 2 tenths.
Yeah.
And so here, not needed as much because we have 9 doubles with 1 triple. I put in some parentheses, some other things that you can play around with, right? If the full branding is not very strong, you can do a routine with 1 triple, 2 Rudy outs, and 2 half outs. That's another option as well. Take that full branding out. If they are already at the senior elite or open elite level where maybe they need some difficulty skills, that full branding could go in the compulsory routine.
Absolutely.
And if the athlete's not ready for the full, they can do half Rudy last skill as well, tuck or pike. All right, so let's get into the Trippus Pikes, and let's start with your document. All right, here we are, back to Nuno's document. First routine, starting with Trippus Pike. Walk us through it, Nuno.
So triff pike, back straight, triff tuck, double tuck, Rudy out pike, double pike, half out pike, half tuck, half out tuck, full pike, or full straight. So that would be the first routine that I would do with triff pike. And again, it's the same principle. We get a really hard first skill. I get a back straight there, or back pike, or back tuck if needed. But I think at this level, back tuck is a little bit pushy. But back pike or back straight would both be acceptable in my opinion. And then you build from there. But it's exactly the same principle. And what I like about the half tuck in the end is that I've been using that ending, all those 4 all together. But again, I might even change it up. It really depends on the athlete. Okay. It really depends on the athlete. I think for some athletes, this is easy to get the doubles in the middle. For other athletes, it's easy to get the halves in the middle and get them over with. So
Yeah, I think I just like how that flows: half out, half and half out,
mm-hmm.
right? And I think
Yeah.
you can let them build. That's one thing that I notice if you take a peek at the next routine, right? There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
changes here,
There's a lot of
but
changes. Yes.
but this, I think the purpose of this routine is not necessarily to prepare for the next routine as much as it is to get confidence having two triples in your routine, right? If you had to put the most important thing, would you agree that's the most important thing of this routine?
I agree. I agree. I agree. It's just getting confidence on those two trips because it's not so easy to put two trips in a routine. It may look easy nowadays with the kids doing it, but it's not so easy. So yes, that routine, the main goal is to just give confidence to the athlete. You know, I don't even know if I would compete this routine. I have it here on the list of competition, but I don't even know if I would compete it that much. Okay, maybe I would. It depends on the time of the season that they're achieving it.
So I remember vividly. I remember the first routine that I did with Trift Talk. I remember the first time I did two triple routine. I remember the first time very vividly, the first three triple routine. So, what are some common things for maybe some coaches that are have an athlete that are now doing two triple routine, and maybe it's their first athlete, or they don't have so many athletes doing that two triple. What are some uh, common things to look for, some common flaws, some mistakes that maybe you made or that your athletes made that you could help some other coaches out, not make those
So
same mistakes.
I can tell you some mistakes I made, which was trying to push the trips a little bit too early. That was the first mistake. I even did it. Okay, I have this story from a competition in Portugal that I tried to do the trip, and my coach was like, "So what if you crash?" And I was like, "What if I made it?" Is that right? There was this. It was not even an argument. It was just a discussion because clearly the trip was not ready. But the excitement of the competition, the emotion of the competition, we want to do things that we're not ready for. I think that's mistake number one. The second mistake is not going back on these little things, these connections. If we put two trips, assuming that you put another skill and you can just maintain the same structure for the rest of the routine, that simply does not happen, or it can happen, but I don't think, I would not call it the best practices to do it. Simple as that. But apart from that, there probably is other mistakes that I'm forgetting, but those for me are the most important ones. What do you think? There are more mistakes?
I think some common mistakes, at least for the first time that the athlete's doing the Triffus layout Triffus, is that the athlete has not done a back layout
Drift
Triffus
tuck.
tuck
Yep.
first, right? So now the first time they've come out of a triple, they've done a layout, and it feels so
But
weird. So and
they only
it's
have done it out of bounces and not with something
right,
connected before.
right.
Correct.
And I think another thing is that you're holding on for so long on that Triffus pike. I remember when I first started doing Triff pikes, it felt like an eternity. Like I was holding my legs forever, and I didn't even felt like I was doing 8 flips. And then you do your layout or double back or half half, probably layout if it's the first time you're starting to do two triples, and then the Triff tuck starts to feel a lot faster. So you feel like you're
Mm-hmm.
going a lot faster. So then I feel like it's pretty common that some athletes end up opening just a little bit too early on the second triple, um, just because it feels so fast, right? And they're
Just feels
like,
so
and they
fast.
start
Yep.
doubting themselves. Um, I have another question for you. So we go right away to pike routine with a two triple routine. Do you ever do the same triff tuck routine just with triff pike first skill before you go to the two triple routine?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. You just switch the drift tuck to the drift pike and you maintain the same structure. But I would do that more in training. But you know what? It wouldn't be. I actually think I had an athlete trying that routine, exactly what you just said last year in competition, starting with drift pike, just replacing the drift tuck to the drift pike because he clearly wasn't ready yet to do true drifts. But I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
push him a little bit more the drift pike because I wanted him to give that jump to the true drifts. But the drift
Right.
pike is not ready yet, so I pushed the drift pike just by itself on the routine. Yes, but I
Yeah.
guess
And
I could have written that on the sheets there.
I think it all again. I think a lot of it that we see is more common with the switch to the triff pike, but only one triple is with females, right?
Hmm.
Because they have the skill, they have the start,
Of
height,
course.
start height. But I feel like it's more common that we see a more drastic drop in height from the females than we do from the males. So if the males can hold their height a little bit longer, then they have that height to do triff tuck on that
Correct.
that third bounce. All right, so let's take a peek at the document that I've composed to look at the Triff Pike routines. All right, so here we have our first Triff routine, and just like you, I have it with two triples. But in training, or depending how strong they are, they'll do just the same Triff Tuck routine as previous done, And they can start over. So if I scroll back up where they started
Yeah,
with
they
the
can go
layout
all the way
second
to the back.
skill,
Yep.
they
Mm-hmm.
start over again just with Trivis Pike. Trivis Pike
Mm-hmm.
layouts, and then they build their way back up to Trivis Pike half in, half out, and then the remaining part of that routine. All
And I
right,
think that
so yeah.
the most important part here for coaches to understand is exactly that. It gets to this point, it's impossible to write all the possible routines that we would do here to get to the 17-1 or whatever we're trying to achieve, right? It's impossible. There are certain steps that we're not going to be able to write. It just, especially the way I build my document horizontally with all the levels, there is no space to put all the routines
No,
that I want to put
for
there.
sure
So
not.
it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have a podcast, so we can talk about it instead of
Exactly.
writing it down, right? All right, so the first Triv Pike routine that I have the athletes doing, Trivis Pike, back layout, Trivis tuck, half in, half out tuck. And honestly, that could be a back pike there, at least for
Or a
training
double
purposes. They
tuck.
wouldn't, or double tuck, they wouldn't probably compete back pike fourth. If they're still doing single skills between both triples, then it's probably not ready to compete anyway. So Trivis Pike, back layout, Trivis tuck, half in, half out tuck, Rudy out pike, double tuck, full brainy pike, double back pike, half out, and then full. Hopefully by now with two triples, there's no reason why they should not have their full yet.
Correct.
I think if they don't have their full yet, then there's something wrong. Obviously there's some issues, right? Some athletes have some really difficult times learning full. So, but there should at least be maybe a half Rudy then, right? Some double twisting, double back somersault to finish off that routine. And then eventually the Miller. So then the next routine that they'll do, so this is a 13-6, so it's a little step back. Once they put the half and half out pike second skill, it'll jump up to 14-4.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they put the Miller, it goes into a 14-6. So this routine, I feel like, is a pretty good routine for a first or second year senior elite male, or honestly,
I would say
a
more
strong.
first year. I would say more first year. I think
But
I
I'm
have
sorry,
it.
with the 14-4, the
Yeah.
14-4
I don't
for
remember where I had it, but I might have it at the end of the junior years. Because if you
the
look
two
internationally,
triple.
if you look, yeah, I think so. Well, I don't remember. I
Yeah.
really don't remember. I have to see. But maybe not. Maybe I have it at the beginning of the senior years. But you
So,
already see some 15, 16 at WAGs doing these routines.
oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's some 15, 16s already doing three triples, right, at home.
Yes.
But yeah, so I guess I don't want to set in stone like if you're a junior you should be doing this, but I feel
Correct.
like
No, no,
this
no, no, no.
is, if you're a first year senior, you should probably be able to do this routine, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
then
Correct.
if you are talented in following the right steps, and you can do this as a junior, then you're probably competitive internationally,
Correct.
at least in the top, maybe depending, well, there's many variables, but that would be a difficulty done by probably the top third of the world age groups, that difficulty.
Yeah.
And then the next step, once so they do the same routine. Oops, sorry, scrolling too fast. They got the Miller in. They've been doing the 14-6 for a little bit. The next step would be to put the full in fourth skill. And we joked around that full is kind of like a
The
breather
breather.
skill, and it will be. It
It
will be
really
here,
is.
regardless of how the difficulty value, it's still a breather skill. And some people might ask, well, why wouldn't you put the half tuck, right? They just did two triples, they're tired, and that's a valid point. But if you do put that half tuck, where are you going to put the full? You're going to put the full sixth. Then guess what? They're going to be even more tired in the sixth skill, right? And you don't really want to mess with skill 8. Skill 8 is because it is so important to build those last two for your sake, for the judges' sake, so that you can finish strong. I'm sorry, not for the judges' sake, but for your sake and the judges' eyes,
Correct.
of what kind of quality that routine was. And usually your last skill is hard, so you want to make sure that you're setting up that skill in a good position on the trampoline. And I feel like this is a very common routine
this is
here.
definitely, this is a very common routine, and this is a very senior routine already.
Right. Yes. So I would say senior men, and then top senior female.
Correct.
And this is
And of
difficulty
course, I
15-2.
think it's important to understand that full brainy and the Rudy out can switch, the doubles can
Interchangeable. Yep.
switch.
Yes. The only
Some
thing I
half
think
Rudies.
the only thing
Some
that
people do
doesn't
half Rudy
switch.
instead of, yeah, some people do half Rudy instead of the full pike. I think it's important
Right.
that
Yep.
it's the same difficulty, but different skills, I guess.
Correct. Yes.
And
Yep.
also, I actually wanted to bring some point here. Some people do half tuck instead of pike because they start
Second skill.
preparing second skill because they start preparing the half trip right away. I know. I think the Russians is really like that. They enjoy having the half tuck on second skill because it gives them the space for the half trip already, the same takeoff, everything.
I enjoy, and I understand it, but I enjoy the reason why I stick to the pike is there's a lot of speed coming out of that trip pike. The
Mm-hmm.
athlete needs to exaggerate that takeoff to stretch out of the trampoline bed to make sure that they slow down enough to control the half, right? If it's a tuck, well, now they're flipping super fast. I feel like it's easier to mess up the rotation on the half tuck. It's also easier to kind of turn off the bed and grab your knees.
Right. But I think
So
that's all those things that you just said is probably the reason why they do it. So you can prepare with a half tuck and plan and adapt. And then when it becomes the half drift, all those things already were taken care of. I think that's the reason why people do it. But I use the pike too, so I
yeah,
cannot say very
to each
much
their
about it.
own, right? I think
Correct. I
if everyone did the same
again,
routines, it'd be boring.
I
All right.
exactly.
So let's take the next step here on my document, and then we'll check out yours. This again, now we're getting to the point where it really depends on the athlete, right? Sometimes the athlete is better at twisting. Sometimes the athlete jumps higher, and the triples are just stupid easy for them, right? So this routine could come before the triples. Three triples couldn't, maybe not,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come before the triples. Um, and so this routine has the same first four: triple pike, half and half out pike, triple tuck, full pike or half Rudy pike. And then fifth skill would be full Rudy straight. Sometimes some athletes like the Randy out. I did Randy out for a couple years, fifth skill. I enjoyed it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's a really difficult skill to make look nice and hold your height. The full Rudy is a lot easier. And then,
I feel like there is three groups of people. Okay, those that prefer full Rudy, those that prefer Randy out, and then the ones in the middle that can do both really well, which is not very many. Okay, it's like like it's one or the other,
yeah,
one or the other. I was on the full Rudy side. Randy out was never my thing.
I enjoyed doing the full Rudy more than the Randy out, but my full Rudy I don't think was ever
See,
fantastic. I did
I
it and it was
disagree. I
okay,
think
but
your
I
full
don't think.
Rudy was beautiful. You
Oh
probably
well, thank
never
you.
really you
I
never had the feeling, but I think your full Rudy was great. And you know what? Maybe we'll put a video of your full Rudy so people can judge how good it was.
oh okay, we'll see. I'll have to find a really good one then. Um, so all right, let's continue. Fifth skill, we got full Rudy or Randy out. Next skill should be a rest skill. Here it's half tuck. It could be double pike. And then Rudy out, double back pike, full Brandy Miller. Honestly, this would be a training routine. If you're doing full Rudies and Randy out, you don't need double back pike in there, right?
Yeah.
You should have, well, I guess you need it, right? Because there's no three triples, right? You have the two half and half outs. You have full Miller, right? You need that double back pike. So technically, you guess you have to. All right, so and looks like I have one more routine here with the full, and the half Rudy. And
And a
honestly,
half Rudy.
this should be probably listed before the other one because this is much more common that the athletes will do than the full Rudy and Randy out. And it has the same start: Trivis pike, half and half out pike, Trivis tuck, full pike, Rudy out, half and Rudy out pike, full Brandy pike, half and half out tuck, half out pike Miller. And the full pike fourth and the half Rudy are interchangeable depending on how strong or weak the half Rudy is.
I wanted to say something about this
Yeah.
routine. I also think that the half pike and the full Brandy can flip for the single reason of all that twisting that you had there, and then give it a breather there, and then put the full Brandy on 9 skill instead of on 7. But again,
Yes.
I actually have an athlete that is doing that right now because it was very hard for him to do the half Rudy pike full branny. So half Rudy pike, half out pike,
Yep,
row, and then put the
half and
full
half out.
branny before the
And that
Miller.
that
But
full Brandy Miller is not that difficult
it's
of a
not
connection. I mean, when they first do it, the athletes are going to be crapping their pants, so scared, right? I got to do full Brandy Miller, and then
hmm
once they realize the ending, the Brandy over the top is the same, you know. The only downside is if they're low at the end, it's very easy to rush that full Brandy, and if you lose height on that full Brandy, you know that Miller is going to be whipped like like crazy,
correct. And
right?
there is also, and I don't know if you wrote it, but there is also another possibility like Ushakov does, for example, where he put the full Rudy Miller at the end. He has
Yeah.
a simpler middle and then he puts full Rudy Miller at the end. And I don't know if Andre Yudin also does it. I don't remember. I think he does,
Mhm.
but Ushakov for sure does it.
I did that routine in 2009 for Rudy Miller, and Tatiana really wanted me to do it, and I did it okay sometimes, but most of the time I don't think it was worth it as far as my total score goes. I think, and then
hmm
we moved it to seventh, and we moved it to fifth, and we kind of played between fifth and seventh for the full Rudy.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are on Nuno's routine, and Nuno, walk us through. I think we already went over 2 and 3. Why don't you walk us through optional 4? And you have this
Yeah.
at the end
So
of the junior levels, right?
yes,
And
like
this
I
is
said
this is
before, I think
male, right? This
yeah,
is not
this
something
yes,
a
this is
junior
all
female
based
would.
for boys. Yes, a junior female would not be able to do this, but this is also based on being competitive internationally, like we talked before. So the last routine that I have for a junior would be drift pike, half pike, drift tuck, full tuck, or pike. I guess here it really depends how good it is, but right now I have the tuck there. Rudy out pike, half tuck, full brandy pike, double pike, half out pike, and then full straight or Miller straight. So it really, again, I don't know if the Miller is going to be as ready at this point. It might be, it might not be. I think the Miller is a. It's not so easy skill to perform flawlessly. It's really easy after you do it, but to learn is not really so easy. So the full straight might be a safer bet here for the junior.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you? So you put full tuck. You said it's interchangeable
Double pike, yeah,
with full pike. What about half Rudy? Is that interchangeable here, or you
yeah,
you,
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
mess with the half Rudies?
You can put the half Rudy there. I have no
Mhm.
problem. It really depends on the athlete. Again, for example, I have an athlete right now doing half Rudies instead of fulls
Mhm.
because it needs to be like that. But I think the half Rudy is much harder to connect at this point in life. For them, I think this the half Rudy here is much harder than a full to connect. But again, like I said, take this with a grain of salt. It really depends on the athlete that you have in front of you. There might be an athlete that proves this all wrong and does beautiful half Rudies and really hard to do fulls.
All right, so let's take a look at the routines. Optional 1 that you have for a senior elite. Um,
Yep. So the first option that I would put for a
Almost the
senior,
same,
and
right?
yeah, it's almost the same with the full pike. So the
Gotcha.
only difference is definitely the full pike there, but it could be on the previous one as well, right? So let's go to the next
Hmm.
one. The next one, I used the half Rudies
Optional
already.
2.
So yep, optional two. I have drift pike, half pike, drift tuck, full pike, Rudy out pike, half, full brandy, half Rudy, half out pike, full straight or Miller. And then the half Rudy
Hmm.
can be tuck or pike depending on how it is.
Do
But again,
you do you
you can
enjoy
also bring that
putting
half
that?
Rudy to six.
Yeah, that
You
was
can
going to be
also
my
bring that
question.
half Rudy to six. It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. It's very interchangeable here. Things
So
like we talked
what are the
before.
pros and cons? I think, I mean, it jumps off the page to me that it might be a little bit too low to perform that half Rudy.
Well,
But I mean, the cons are it's not after Rudy out; it's after the full Branny. That
and
seems like a pro.
I feel like this way it allows them to start hard, have a breather in the middle with that Rudy out pike, half tuck for Brandy, and then reach up towards the end again. Right. That's what I try to build a rhythm in these routines like this. But again, I would not see a big fault if the half Rudy goes after the Rudyat and the half comes a little bit later to breathe for the last two skills.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely, I can see that. What about optional 3?
So
Looks
that's
like
where I
it's
put
similar.
that's
Yeah.
where I put with my full Rudy or the Randy out, just like you. So drift pike, half pike, drift tuck, full pike, full Rudy or Randy out, half tuck, full Brandy, half Rudy, Rudy out pike, full or Miller.
Yeah, and I think it's almost the same. I think I just didn't have the half Rudy eighth, right?
I think you have half out pike at the end. So I don't know if
Correct.
you did
Yes,
not put the full Brandy or you did not, no, because I think you did put the Rudy out. So
I
you
didn't put the
might
Rudy
took it
out.
out the full
Correct.
Brandy.
Yeah, and I think the if you had to choose between the full Brandy and the Rudy out, which one to take out, I think taking out the Rudy out would help the athletes a lot. While it's an easy skill to do, it's a hard skill to master and connect, right? It's much easier to manage the full Brandy, in my opinion, than the Rudy out.
Correct, but I think at this stage in life they are very well versed on the Rudyard. I think at this point that Rudyard is just like easy as any other skill.
No, for sure. But I mean, what jumps to me, it seems like a difficult ending to go from half Rudy to Miller, or even to full. It seems like a lot of twisting doesn't allow the athlete to kind of build on the last two so much, as if I'm just envisioning maybe like a first year senior, you know, I just imagine them rushing through Rudy half Rudy or full Brandy half Rudy out Miller and twisting off of the
Correct.
trampoline bed, so and I guess it depends on how strong they are, how high they jump. But to me, it would make more sense to take those 2/10 away from the Rudy out to make it a half out and at
And
least
put a
build for
half
the
out.
last two. Yeah,
Yeah, it's totally
personal
fine. Yep,
opinion.
absolutely. No. I think it's fine. But and I think it's important because for the 17-1, that Rudyard is going to be there. So I think is important is to start creating those
Hmm.
connections in training.
Right, that's true. That's true. All right, so let's
Yeah,
go to your optional four, and here we are, the big boy routine. You remember your first three triple routine?
I do remember. Yeah.
Did you feel like you were
And
the
it wasn't
biggest
like
guy in
this
the world?
because
Did
it
your
was
head grow three sizes?
a little bit, but it was not like this because at the time all I wanted to do was Moskalenko's routine with the full straight on fourth skill.
Yep,
So
yep.
that's all I wanted to do, and that's what I did for many years. But this routine goes drift pike, half drift tuck, full pike, full Rudy straight or the Randy out, which I did not put there and should have. Half Rudy pike, full Brandy pike, half pike, Rudy out pike, Miller straight, which can also be a half out pike. Because if you do a half out to pike, you have 16-2. That's exactly what actually one of my athletes does. It's an easy ending, but the Rudy out pike there allows them to prepare for the next one, the 17-1 that comes after that.
What about, what is it, like I think it's like a 15-6. So it's almost the same three triple routine, but without the full Rudy. Do you do that routine?
I
So
usually
half
don't. I think
drift,
when
full, and then either Rudy out of full Brandy, half Rudy, and then Rudy out of full
well,
Brandy, half out Miller.
yeah, I actually do. Sorry, I actually do that most of the times. The full Rudy, it's not so because and I tell you why I do it because we still have to use some skills on compulsory. So usually that full Rudy goes on compulsory right now, but
Hmm.
this is the routine that I did or similar to what I did when I was competing. And this is what I would prefer. And what since we were working on this and I had to work on these routines, I started preparing them a little bit already for the next cycle. So this is what I would prefer there.
Hmm. Yeah. Under, Understandable. So when I look at this routine, some things that me personally, as an athlete, not as a coach, as an athlete, if I were to do this routine, I would put the half pike in the sixth position after
There.
the full Rudy, only because my full Rudy didn't pop, didn't go up as high as many others. So I would need that half pike to rebuild my height, and then I could my full Brandy was decent, so I could build on the full Brandy, and then I would put the half
Put
Rudy,
that.
and then
You
either
know,
Rudy out Miller or half
and
out Miller.
maybe the, this is I think the reason why I wrote it like this because it was similar to what I did in my time. But if you even look at the routine behind, that's what I had, the half Rudy later. So maybe to
Right.
continue a better evolution, that's what I should have put. I should have kept the
And did
half
you?
pike after the full Rudy, and then the half Rudy always at 8 skill, right? And kept it there.
Hmm.
Again,
What?
I was writing and I brought too much my feeling on this.
What about because you have, I'm looking here, ninth, and it goes from half out Pike Miller to Rudy out Miller. What about putting the full Branny ninth, like we had talked about, so that they can,
I
you know,
think they're
even going
totally.
looking forwards to the 17-1, right? Even putting that full Branny ninth. So I feel like well, I guess it depends, right? Some athletes can build more on a Rudy out, some athletes can build more on a
There
full
you go.
Branny, but
That's
I,
exactly it.
I feel
I
like
just feel I think the takeoff of the Rudy out allows for more height, but again, not all the athletes prefer the Rudy out at 9 skill. I did full
mhm.
Rennie at 9 skill, for example, but it really depends on the athlete.
And I feel
I,
like it's so easy to whip that Miller after a Rudy out than it is after a full Brenny. But to be honest, if they're doing these 3 triple routines, going to 4 triple routines, hopefully they should be able to do it. If not, you as a coach don't force them to do that Rudy out Miller, right? You have to start
yeah,
working to their strengths. Put the full Brenny ninth. If the
put the
full
full
Brandy's
Rennie.
not
Yeah,
building, put the Rudy out ninth. It's not about, oh, this is the routines my athletes do throughout the years. No, you have to form these routines to the individual athlete.
correct.
All right, so let's before we get into 4 triples, let's take a look at the 3 triple routines that I have on my document. All right, so here's the 3 triple routine that we have. Might be it's very similar, right? So Trivis Pike, half and half out, Trivis tuck, full, depending on how strong that those 3 triples are. Maybe put half Pike, fourth skill, just to give them an extra breather. Rudy out, and then you can put that full after the Rudy out if they're like dying after those 3 triples, and then full Brandy, half out. Miller, that's a very, very easy ending. It's only 15-8. This is a routine, a very beginner routine for the 3 triples, just to get their confidence up. Then they go to this routine, which is you see probably at least 20 people do at the World Championships, at least this exact routine. And it goes Trivis Pike, half and half out, Trivis tuck, full Pike, Rudy out Pike, half and Rudy out Pike, full half Pike, half and half out Pike, Miller straight, 16-2. And at this point, if they're doing this routine, they should be doing half Triv Pike by now. They should be doing Trivis Rudy out or full front half or both, right? Or all three of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, once they get to this routine, that you can start putting in that full Rudy, and you can start playing around. Put it in fifth, put it in seventh, put it in ninth. Start finding your athlete's strengths, right? And I have another question for you. How long, at this level, do you practice a routine or something before you realize, okay, this isn't working for this person, let's change it? Or how long do you say, no, we need to keep going, don't worry, it'll get better, you'll fix it. It'll get better, you just need practice. I know there's not
That's
exact number like 5 days, 2 months, right? But if you had to give a general consensus,
honestly, I think it's really hard to give a number, but I think it comes more with a little bit of a feeling. You look at the athlete and you see if you see a little bit of improvement or if you see zero improvement on that connection. I think eventually they all will improve. The question is, what's the rate of that improvement? Is it as
Mhm.
you want it to be, or is it really, really slow? I actually, for example, I had this situation. So that athlete that I said that he's doing half out Pike after the half Rudy because he kept doing half Rudy, full Brandy, blah, full Brandy, blah. And we tried for a little bit. I don't know how long it is, maybe a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, depending on how
Mhm.
much we do that turn that connection at practice. And it then got to a point that was like, okay, you know what? There is really is no point. This is not being beneficial anymore. So let's make some change. Let's play with some changes. So and then in the end, the half out Pike after the half really turned out to be a really, really good change for that athlete. And then after that, they start finishing routines, confidence start building up, and even the other day, he played again with a half Rudy full Brandy, for example, again. Just because after
Mhm.
you start building confidence and after the half Rudy start getting better, then it's much easier to just change it again. But it's good to just, I think, it's important to force a little bit to see how much it goes. But then after that, okay, let's not break it, okay, and try something different.
I think that's good, and I think you have to look at how if it's just not that good, or if they're messing up on the skill, right? You have to look at how drastic that mess up is, right? If it's just
Correct.
a small mess up, okay, let's keep pushing it. Let's try, see if we can change it, right? If it's
Correct.
not working, then okay, maybe give it a week or two and then we move on. So then this is the
I think
next,
one big point. I think one big point is if you are close to competition level and you have competition and that routine is not being done, then something needs to change. Obviously, right? So if
right.
you are at the stage like we are right now, where we have no competitions, you can probably push it a little bit longer and see where it goes, and do different connections to see if you can improve the original connection that you want.
Right. And I think going back to, if there's a competition coming up, I think going back to, I think the second podcast that we did with these routine compositions, the athletes need to be training 2 to 3 routines right now, right? An easy routine that maybe they do for synchro, right? A prelims routine, which is their main routine, and then a finals routine. And
Well, I
so,
don't want to show my hand here, but I have athletes training for the next cycle already. Routines for the next cycle.
right. So that would
And they
be
still have
their
still have one more year with very important competitions. But at this stage, I think it's important for them to also stay
right.
motivated and
Yeah, absolutely. And they can start working pieces and chunks of their stretch, their
correct,
dream routine, right?
correct.
2, 3, 4 skills. Um, and sometimes I used to do pieces that would never went in my routine, but it was like, if I did that, that would be a 19-2 difficulty, right? And you just kind of, that's how you stay motivated. So
Exactly.
this is the last routine of 3 triples that I have, and it's pretty much the same. It just has that full Rudy or Randy out fifth skill, and like I had said, that's from my personal opinion. I put that half pike there because it gives a little bit of rest, a little bit of recovery after the full Rudy, and then the half Rudy goes eighth, and then we end full Rudy Miller or full Brandy Miller. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then the next routine that I have for 4 triples, this is where it depends. So I think we can stop saying that it depends on the athlete, because I think we've hopefully beaten it through your skull right now that this is all now from here on out the absolute strength of the athlete. So for me, I feel like it's easier to teach the athlete the half and half out Triffus pike than it is a Triffus Rudy out. And I feel like the Triffus Rudy out is, once you've mastered it, very easy skill to do. But I feel like it takes a little bit longer because the timing of the kick out of the Triffus Rudy out is much different than the Rudy out. And so a lot of athletes have a hard time understanding, at least that I've encountered, have a hard time understanding the perfect timing of the when to Rudy on the triple, and then they end up either over rotating a little bit, under rotating. So to master, to put into a connection takes a little bit of time. So that's why the athletes at this point should be doing Triffus Rudy out. But the next routine that I have here is with half and half out Triffus pike. If the athlete has half and half a Triffus pike in the compulsory, then you won't do this routine, right? Maybe you put the Triffus Rudy out in the compulsory. Now it starts to get into strategy. But this is just one of the options of a 4 triple routine. And it starts Triffus pike, half and half out Triffus pike, Triffus tuck, half and half out Triffus tuck, Rudy out pike, half and half out pike, full Bernie pike, full pike, half out Miller. This is with 16-7. If you put the half Rudy in there, it becomes 16-9. If you put the half Rudy and the Rudy, I'm sorry, there's no Rudy out. If you put the half Rudy, it's 16-9. If you put the full Rudy,
You can put the
it can
full
become
Rudy up.
17-1 or 17-3. All right.
So let me tell you
Let's,
what I don't like about this routine, okay? Because
yeah,
I competed a routine similar to this, okay, in my time. But I think nowadays, what we talk about, that 9-1 for the youth elites, I feel the same thing about this routine in the Rudy out drift. The judges are expecting something, okay, something under a standard, and this routine is not under their standards. I feel this routine is not very well scored. That is the only thing. I did the same routine, or I practiced the same routine. This routine like this with Miller plus at the end. I actually had Miller after the drift tuck, and that was my record. That was my personal record. I've never done more than this routine, okay, in training, not never in competition, in training. But I feel like nowadays this is not the kind of structure that the judges are looking for.
right.
Maybe it is on the next
It's not
cycle,
becoming the
because
common.
it's gonna change a little bit. Maybe on the next cycle we're gonna be more of these, especially
Mm-hmm.
for those people that do drifts right now. Maybe this will be the next step for them. But I feel right now the Rudy out trip or the full front half, it's something that is expected to be on the first skill. If that skill doesn't show up there, then it's not going to be judged the same way.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think the evolution of the men is
Yep,
becoming that common trip fruity out or full front half
correct.
start. Um,
And I
and
don't
again, but
disagree with you.
this
I don't
this
disagree with
routine might be
you.
done
I,
if the athlete, like I said, the Triffus Rudy out is not mastered yet. If the Triffus Rudy out is still under
correct.
rotating, over rotating,
And
this is another option.
and it's easier to do than with the Rudyard drift. I totally agree with you. It's
Yep.
much easier to do the half drift pike than the Rudyard drift. I totally agree with you.
hmm And so here's the 17-1 that we talked about with the four triple start with the full Rudy. You can make that 17-3 by, I would put this skill as half Rudy. And then after the full Rudy, this skill full full. Probably it's easier to do a full full after full Rudy, in my opinion, than a half Rudy. That would be make 17-3. And then the next routine, which is probably the first routine of four triples that you have, which we'll take a peek in a
Hmm.
minute, is a Triffus Rudy out start. They can also do full front half. If the Triffus Rudy out isn't their cup of tea, their forte, right? And I think this is where it gets interesting because this is where they start to play around with their strategy, right? We saw Tetsuya the last 2 years doing
Correct.
full front half, but he has Triffus Rudy out, right? But he was playing around with the full front half, and I think it's exciting to see too some different routines. I think the judges will enjoy that as well, seeing something different from time to time instead of seeing the same routine. So this routine goes Triffus Rudy out pike or full front half pike, half and half out pike to give a little breather. Triffus pike, half and half out Triffus tuck, full pike, Rudy out, half tuck or half Rudy, and then full Bernie Miller. It's 16-7. If you have the half Rudy there, it's 17-1. So it's the same difficulty as the four triple start. But here, the good things about this is, yeah, it's four triples, but it's not consecutive. You do one, get a break, and then you do the three triples that you've probably been doing for a
Correct.
few years now. Trip pike, half trip tuck,
Correct.
trip tuck. Let's take a peek at your routine. You know, it might be something very similar to this. Let's take a look. So my routine, when the routine that I had composed was Triffus Rudy out pike, half and half out pike, Triffus pike, half and half out Triffus tuck, full pike, Rudy out pike, half and Rudy out pike, full Brandy pike, Miller. So it's the same routine, just with the full Brandy and
We
the
switch the full brain and the
Rudy
Rudy out.
out.
And
Yep.
honestly, I actually have an athlete doing this right now where we actually switch the half Rudy with a full as well.
So
Because
the half
he
Rudy coming
always,
after the trip tuck.
yes, he always enjoyed better the half Rudy after the drift tuck. He was one of the athletes that never did full pike after the drift tuck. He always did half
Mm-hmm.
Rudy. So we just maintain that connection. That's all.
Yeah, and I think there's content. I think you can build, in my personal opinion, you can build full more than the half Rudy, right? The half Rudy, a lot of people tend to rush pike because they want to get that Rudy over with. You don't see
If
half
it's a
Rudy
really
going up
good
as high as
one,
full.
if it's a really good one, I think it's much easier. But if it's, I don't know, if the one and a halves are slow and the pike is late, then it's much harder to do, I think.
So this is the last routine that you have here on the
That is the last
document.
routine that I have. Yep.
What would you add here? The full Rudy or the half turf
Um,
pike?
you can have the full Rudy there. Honestly, we're starting to build for the next quad, and I want to put full front half and Rudy out drift. I haven't really decided how I'm going to do that, but that's my goal. Probably full front half, Rudy out drift, half drift. But we also have been playing a little bit with Rudy out drift pike, half drift tuck. So
Right.
that's what I probably would add.
Which is what we saw. This 17-1 is what we saw from the Chinese, and then the finals, the half turf pike would go
Correct.
second.
Correct. That half drift pike goes second, but you can still improve more here. You can put that full Rudy definitely at 7 skill if you want, for
See,
example.
I think one thing that, we get set in our ways, and then we see
Hmm.
something, we're like, And one of those things was Jason Burnett. Jason Burnett would do these high difficulty, set the difficulty record in Switzerland in 2010, I think
Yep.
that World Cup was,
I don't
doing
remember,
18-8.
but yes.
And I think he had two triples, maybe three, right? And I was like, what the heck?
Randy's
And
have Randy's.
right. And right. I mean, as long as you are capable of doing these skills, right, you can add more difficulty doing faster. I feel like doing twisting, and which is what I started to play with at the end of my career, was putting the full Rudy in the middle with the Miller, the Miller and the full Rudy, and the Miller plus at the end. And I feel like you can build difficulty faster and more efficiently than putting in more triples. Now the judges are that's not orthodox routine. The judges are expecting 4 to 6 triples now, right?
Yeah.
Especially coming up in the next quad. So when they see that, they might not judge that routine the same either.
We shall see. I think the next squad is going to change a lot of different mentalities. We shall see.
So once you get here, and this is all going to change next quad. I mean, as a spectator, right? I'm excited for this. It's going to be, we're going to go through a weird phase like we always do when we change the rules, when we added time of flight, right? We started some weird stuff when we added 2 difficulty skills on compulsory. It became weird, and then we kind of found our middle, and then it was 4 skills, and we kind of found a common thing. And it's going to take, I think, a couple of years to find what's normal coming up in this next quad. There's going to be people that are throwing difficulty, right? There's going to be people that are taking, I think there's a few strategies, right? There's one where they're going to try to play safe. They're going to do 2 consistent routines. Some people are going to go balls to the wall, and then they have their backup routine just in case. Some people are going to do that routine first, get out of the way, then go balls to the wall in the second routine, right?
I honestly, I think that strategy is going to be the most frequent. At least I think so. But everyone is different, so people might do different ways. I don't know.
So
you can even approach each competition differently. If it's a competition that doesn't count for much, you can try 2 times a very, very hard routine, for example.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about coaches and what common mistakes some coaches might make with their first senior or second senior. And these difficult routines, these final routines, they're going to need a lot of work, but I wouldn't put all your eggs into that basket, right? Like, so a coach might look at this and go, oh, your routine's pretty good, but that finals routine is so much work. And I feel like it's always going to be that way. And you can't, if you just work on that more difficult routine, then you might create bad habits, you might lower their execution, right? And there's a downside to it. So
I think there is one bigger downside than all of that, which is injury. I think if you only focus on that harder routine and you forget a little bit of the basics, and you change the structure of what we consider training now, right? With a little bit of technical turns and all that, if you change that because they're not as necessary anymore, I think you put a lot of more physical emphasis on the body. So I think injury may become a very big problem for those athletes. So I think it's our role to predict that a little bit and anticipate it.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? And and you can say, oh, well, it was just an accident, but accidents are sometimes more likely than other times, right? So yes, accidents happen. That's why you have to be extra careful when they're doing these skills and these routines. I mean, a general rule of thumb, if they can't do the pieces by 6 skills at a time, they probably shouldn't be trying the whole routine, right? Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that.
So we got through it. That was exciting. I'm happy we did. That goes all the way from the very first optional routine that we have here in the United States to international competing senior elite male. Again, a lot of these routines at the higher level are kind of geared more towards the men. But at the youth and the junior level, very interchangeable between male and female. There shouldn't be much of a difference. All right, so that's a wrap. Part 4 of trampoline routine composition. We hope you enjoyed listening to how we build routines. I think we would love to keep the conversation going. So is there a routine that we missed? Is there something that you do that we don't? Would you like to just share your way? We'd love to hear it. So comment below, send us an email at trampolineinsight@gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter @trampinsight, on Instagram @trampolineinsight. You can also send us a voice message with questions or opinions by following the link in the episode description. Thank you guys for listening. We can't wait to see you guys on the next podcast, and let us know what guests you would like to have on the podcast. Who would you like to hear and learn about?
Absolutely.
it's fun for us. I'm sure it's fun for you guys. So shoot us a message, shoot us a comment, and we'll try to get that person on the podcast. Thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, guys.